A group is becoming unraveled because of someone's savage ways. We've got the animal and the captain in reverse, taking command and teamwork. And this is a daisy chain off of that last reading with Lilith, because I wanted to know what type of institutional harm or just harm from a group is being directed at whomever Lilith represents, and why? Like, what is the backstory as to what's happening? Because this seems like a lot of trouble, a lot of energy directed at one person. And this captain card in reverse, that's like distrust, discord within a team, disharmony. Other words that start with D. And I got an interesting dice roll too. Aries, 10th house, and Venus. And since I'm reading this in more of a shadow aspect, it's like losing control of one's basal urges, or being, they're kind of at the helm. They've got one hand on the wheel, and it has something to do with career or goals, structures, things like that. So, and there's a handshake here on this card, and it's giving me like backroom deals, something like that. Like some sort of, I don't know, things that shouldn't be happening are happening to get people access to power, and maybe women, substances, those basal vices, things like that. So I'll start getting some more cards out here. And all three of these came out in a cluster. These archetype cards. I also got the Maiden and the Empty Room. And the Empty Room is like a hungry ghost. Can never be satisfied. But what's his true intention behind the animal? Like, what's driving this behavior? Support. I'm here to support and elevate you while expecting nothing in return. That actually feels kind of love bomby. Like, that's how this whole issue started to take root. Because somebody was wearing a mask. That they're supportive when they're not. When they're actually in this shadow animal archetype. And doing things that are concerned with the me, not the we. And I thought the Game of Thrones tarot would be a good choice to look at institutional harm. So, what about this mask of support? And right as that clock chimes, in the last couple of readings, we're talking about preventing transformation, preventing the new from coming in. That's a big theme that's been running through. And once I start getting ready for a reading, that's like the ritual space is open. Because the Morrigan being my patron, divination is a way to commune with her. And so especially when there are some birds squabbling after I open that ritual space, that's significant. It's more than confirmation bias. It's within the space. And I haven't seen that blue jay in a while, and blue jays are bullies. And the magpie that is here all the time seem to shoo them off. Because I don't set out peanuts very often. It's very occasional. And I did this morning, but nobody showed up until I started getting ready for the reading. I thought that was significant. But what about this mask of support? It's an illusion, yeah. 7 of Cups, and then 5 of Swords in reverse. Trying to cast an illusion to bring the infighting to an end. That's been coming up a lot too. It's like, oh, I've learned my lesson. You know, I went and did the therapy, aka took attendance, like said the right things, learned how to put on a better mask from therapy, and is just trying to bring the conflict to an end because they don't want to deal with it. I also heard an interesting interpretation of the 7 of Cups recently. It was from Chiron Intuition, and he said the 7 of Cups is like the movie card, because it's like the illusion up front and there's a lot going on in the background that you don't see, but you also kind of know about. Like, you know there's more than meets the eye, even though you have that period of time where you can suspend disbelief. But eventually you, like, snap back to reality. Or that's the idea. And maybe this person doesn't want people to, like, start questioning, you know, well, if you did this in the first place, like, I'm really in question that you've actually done the work, because we're having to take you on an honor system after you did something really bad. I don't like that. Ooh. I was almost going to stand on its head. Temperance. Balance. Samuel Tarley. Consulting his tomes. Maybe that's the image wanting to be projected. But he is in the Citadel. Oh, and I do have the Citadel deck out too. But he's in the Citadel, and the books are contained by chains. It's like the real knowledge is hidden. And gate kept only to a select few. But which few? Who chose them? Did we vote on this? Did I get a vote? If it concerns me, has anything to do with me? This is kind of like it's like the progression of the big bad wolf. Like, oh yeah, I know I blew your house down, but you can trust me this time. And then it happens again and again. And then you realize you actually need a brick house to protect you from the big bad wolf, because they're just not going to become honest. They are who they are. Somebody who's going to cast an illusion. And they have many waiting in their tool belt, depending on what the scenario requires. And maybe even really sophisticated ones, because the Citadel was where all the knowledge was kept. Centralized knowledge, hoarded away from the masses, who for the most part would probably be illiterate, like the majority. But if we were sharing knowledge, we were handing that out freely instead of hoarding it in a centralized place, then they could learn and, like, progress and things like that. But when you're trying to maintain institutional power, like, we mustn't give the serfs literature unless they yearn for freedom. Thank you, Family Guy, for that one. So it's like an illusion that, like, oh, I mean the best for you, and like, give me the knowledge, give me the books. And then they're like, what? But there's chains in front of them. Like, yeah, you have the key, undo them and give me what you said you were gonna do. And then it just keeps going. That might be what's unraveling this group. So what about the maiden here? And the vibe I got from this was like the recent Wonder Woman movies, especially the first one, where yes, she's naive, but she'll still like hand you your own behind, you know? And this is the same position that the Justice card came out in the last reading, and she's on that one. So what about the maiden? And that was going to be reversed, but it did a topsy-turvy. The muse, generosity and naivety. Naivete. And there's 3 cups on there. And it looks very Greek too, so fitting example, because that's a lyre. And then a pomegranate and a bird. And there's a sun behind it too. So, oh, what is that? In wine there is truth. Is that right? In vito veritas? I think that's right. It's like somebody spilling the beans to a maiden, or someone they thought was naive and they weren't. Because she's not completely ignorant to the ways of the world. It's just she was in a completely different place that has different like social mores and things like that. But then she has that like exotic appeal, that she's different from all the people around her. But there are assumptions made, like because she's different, that somehow translates to stupid. And it happens to people who speak multiple languages a lot because they have the accent, and it's like, I see it a lot from my fellow Americans. It's like, how many languages do you speak? Like, come on now, let's be real. But these assumptions are made and then risks are taken. Like getting too loose. Loose lips sink ships. Lots of little phrases today. So what about the muse? Positive. My intentions are pure, and I want only to elevate and improve your life. This is like whatever began this issue. It's like somebody got bamboozled by their own vices, by their own 7th deadly sin. Like, I know my 7th deadly sin is wrath. That's why I don't get involved in conflicts and such very often, and lean into that idea of wrathful compassion, because I mean, wrath is a necessary ingredient for that. So it's a way for me to channel that aspect of my shadow self into something constructive instead of something destructive. or even something destructive to be constructive. It's like somebody knew, like, oh, all I gotta do is, like, get this guy liquored up, wear a low-cut top. He's gonna sing like a canary. It works sometimes, you know. People get distracted. Like, I can't think clearly when I'm really angry. That's for sure. But what about this positive muse? Maiden. 5 of coins. And it came out in reverse. This is when Arya loses her sight. But what immediately came to mind was the Liananshi, the fairy mistress, making a deal with a fairy, or could be a djinn, whatever the pantheon, but making a deal. And is the clock up? I don't know. But that could be what started this, making some sort of deal with the devil, quote unquote. And you pay the Liananshi, like, with your life force. And there's no getting out of that one. But what else about this 5 of coins? This could even be a scam like a crossroads demon. Because that... I have mixed feelings on that, because the backstory behind that, I can't remember the blues player, his name, but he left for however many, like a decade or something, and came back this, like, brilliant blues player. He went and trained. He went and trained and practiced, and, like, he did the work. But he was so good, and like the disappearing act and coming back, you know, it just sparked this legend. But what he did was pursue his passions, and when you're pursuing something that you're natural at, that it doesn't feel like work, that gets you into flow state and whatnot, the progress you're gonna make, it's gonna be so much faster than if something's like a bore or a drag or whatever. Like, I always struggled more in, like, math class and whatnot, but arts, science, history, things that were more interesting to me, because math just removed by itself, like, snooze fest, come on. But when I was working on things that I enjoy, I blazed through them so fast that I learned to slow myself down. Not because I couldn't do it and be accurate and be right at this, like, lightning speed. It's because the teachers took issue with how fast I was doing it. Not that I was getting anything wrong, I was just doing it too fast. And that was weird to me. So it's like somebody made a deal either with a supernatural entity or a guy, just like some guy trying to cut the line, if you will, on having to do the work and whatnot, because they didn't believe in themselves. They want the rewards without the work. The fool. Yeah. And there's a dragon in this one. That's Tyrion Lannister. And then when they were chained up in the temple and probably hungry. That was bold. Looking for the dragon in the dark. But maybe that's whatever this new journey is. That's like the loan shark or something in the background. Some really big guy named Tiny. I don't know. So what about this Fool? So selling your soul to a maiden, to a muse, to try and get ahead. Queen of Cups. It's a difficult part of the show, too. She wasn't really eating. It's when she got married to Tyrion, and she was spending a lot of time praying and trying to get away from people. And even though she wasn't saying much, her sorrow was on full display. Despondentness. She didn't even want, like, her favorite desserts or whatever. And, like, the little lemon cake, I think. That's very bright and sunny and summery, cheery. It's like wanting no joy. It's like realizing you went after the wrong thing. Like chasing the fame, the fortune, the women, the money, whatever. And then you get it, and you still feel hollow inside the empty room. Because the shadow work wasn't done. That helps one hold such a great fortune as fame, as being in the public eye, wealth, things like that, being able to actually have power and influence. Really need a sturdy foundation for that to sit on. If that's not already there, how many people go through public mental health issues, physical health issues, and things like that? And the public eye isn't very kind, has no real respect for life happening. Granted, it could be a soulless bot on the interwebs. It might not even be a human saying mean things about people. But the empty room. So, insatiable, greed, gluttony, never enough. What about it? This is like the billionaire curse. Like, how could you possibly want more? Why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you giving more? In a positive way. Like, I don't know, ending world hunger? Well, I'm going with the two I can see. The Witch in reverse. And the Diviner. Interesting. So we've got experimentation and rebellion. And rebellion was the subtext on Lilith's card. And then divine timing and evaluation. One reversed, one upright. It's got a little sprout, a little seed. Is this like a practitioner that maybe they're working with? Trying to endlessly chase an external answer rather than going within? But since rebellion is on there and it's in reverse, This to me is like fighting for the status quo. Like, it's people who like bootlick capitalist while having no capital themselves. Like, you're so much closer to becoming homeless than a capitalist. And thinking they're somehow an exception within this like heartless, soulless structure. You're not an exception, like, you're next. Especially someone that maybe even very naively is ready to like please the system, if you will. Like, if I can just do everything right for the system, but it's never enough. It's the hungry ghost. I'm curious what the divine timing is about. Not quite sure yet. So what else about this? And it's interesting to me too that the phases of the moon, whichever way the card is facing, it looks the same for the witch card. And we've got revenge. Well, I'm looking to damage you in retaliation for perceived wrongs. That's what the divine timing is about? This is something about entitlement. Because perceived wrongs, they're not actual. It's like getting mad at somebody for the deal that they took from this muse, from the maiden. That was a result of like unresolved shadow stuff. And it's not to shame that person about what was unresolved. We all go through that, and it comes up in different phases of our life, whether it's been repressed through trauma or different like developmental stages as we just age. But it's the how it's being handled that's the problem. Like, trying to satisfy these desires at the expense of others. It's like there is no ethical capitalism. And it's so layered in the macro view of things, how many people are negatively impacted by the manufacturing of an iPhone, something like that, a smartphone. It's not just specifically them. It's all these different devices that use like precious materials and things like that we're using human lives to extract from the earth in very unsustainable ways at remarkable rates. And then all the putting it together and the shipping, and it's just this whole web of harming the people that system is dependent on for its success. It's a castle built on sand. But then somebody in this energy would get mad at like the workers, the serfs, for taking issue with how all this came to be, and trying to get an unfair advantage on gaining materials and resources and such. But what about this revenge? sideways. 3 of coins. Teamwork, again, referenced here. Coming apart. And this was a sad scene too. This was, the Hound. I think he was recovering from his battle with Brienne of Tarth and helping out this community, and the community got raided, and I think he was the only survivor or something like that. And it's almost like a tower coming down. Because it's like a little tower that they're building. It's starting to rattle at the foundations. So revenge for this group starting to come apart. Maybe that has something to do with the transformation that was trying to be prevented. Because it starts to destabilize this group. A little secret club of trying to get ahead by illicit means, maybe. King of Swords. Calculating. Methodical. And it's a Night King. Path of destruction. Indiscriminately, just taking everybody out. And I don't know if there was even a purpose for that. If it was just they were compelled to do so. That POD song just came to mind. Is it Youth of a Nation? We are the youth of a nation. 2 of Cups and 10 of Swords. Interesting. And it's got I think these are all the old gods. The father, the smith, the warrior, the mother, the maiden. Maiden again. So, a lot of references back to previous events. Is this being reviewed? Maybe? Because 10 of Swords, they were displeased with Jon Snow. And they tricked him to take him out. Pretty volatile energy in this position. The 2 of Cups seems a little out of place, actually. Maybe this has something to do with the maiden, with this muse. It'd be like somebody who was love bombing and implied that they were together or something, but never actually like explicitly had that conversation or something, and then they got married to somebody else that they had no idea that they were also involved with. And then when they try to bring it up and whatnot, it's like, wait, when did we have that conversation that like we were together? What's our anniversary? But it almost seems like somebody in this energy, it'd be like a taste of their own medicine. It's a perceived wrong. Because no, that's not cool to do to somebody, obviously. And if that's the way one has been treating other people, and then they get treated that way, like a cheater getting cheated on, it's like, maybe you should take several seats, actually. Because it seems like the universe just went out of its way to humble you because of the way you've been treating people. And now you're going to try and get revenge on somebody for the way you treat people. Yeah, no. Hmm. So what... How does this fall into an institution? Because this is like what's going on in the back rooms that nobody knows about. There was this false marriage. Or arranged marriage, something like that. Maybe that's involved in this too. There's like an implication, an expectation that these two would be together or something. That I'm a little confused on. Like, where did that expectation come from? Do they just think so highly of themselves? That, I don't know, they can illusion anybody, glamour anybody into believing whatever? Because there has been that not handling rejection well idea too. Huh. But how does this fit into institutional harm? That last little short reel, it had the brutalist church in it. Not very inviting. Cold. Ooh, and I just got a bunch of warmth from that candle right as I said that. Taking that. The merchant. Self-worth and trade. But it's in reverse. It's the scales. Justice? The legal system? And there's apples on it, more references to knowledge. It's like a university? Something like that, like an academic setting? Maybe? I'm actually gonna get one more of these. What else about the merchant? Think a little more about that. How does this... Is this the legal system? What is this? Institutional harm. Because whatever it is, it's impeding the Lilith character's progress. Whatever she's trying to accomplish, maybe just live her life, it's somehow getting in the way. More warmth too. That doesn't usually happen. I don't usually get that from the candle. Those black candles, I think they burn hotter or something. I don't know if the wax is different. But what about this merchant? Ooh. The assassin. Ruthlessness and conviction. But it's in reverse. Is this like the failed assassin? Like the guy who's paid under the table by the legal system to resolve problems, or by whatever respective system we're talking about. The loan shark. There's a book. What about the assassin? The assassin knows that relief comes after completing an unpleasant task quickly. Perhaps you've taken things too far and cut too many ties, leaving you alone and unsupported. It's time to reassess your coping methods and start rebuilding bridges, not burning them. Kind of bring me back to that first card, the captain, like the discord, disharmony within a team. Things have gone too far. The scales are out of balance. I mean, if there's a revenge plot, yeah. Especially for a perceived wrong. I'd say that's too far. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would say that's too far. Maybe that's even like lying to the justice system. Like false reports, something like that. We got misunderstanding, and it came out reversed. Things got lost in translation and taken out of context. Direct communication will clear the air. Not a misunderstanding. Things went too far. This person, whatever's going on, it's, I don't know if it's been seen yet, but at a minimum, it's like way out of hand. Because imagine somebody thinking it's okay to take revenge on someone else for something they did. And it happens all the time. I mean, how many women are we losing for simply saying no to going on a date? Like the massive entitlement. But something to do with this group and the revenge plot. Maybe they were involved? Whether they were told the truth or not, because they still got involved. That was their choice to get involved. It was their choice to operate on any information they were provided. Whether they verified that or not, that's up to them. It's kind of bringing me back to this like relationship idea though, and there's a weird, I'm not quite sure what I'm feeling here, because this Two of Cups, that ribbon, that would be for was it handfast marriage? But it's still loose. It hasn't really been tied. Did somebody convince a group of people to get revenge on like an ex who isn't even an ex? I don't know. That Seven of Cups, that weird like Delulu energy. Because it can be illusions, it can also be delusions. Weird. But what is not a misunderstanding? Because that might be an excuse that's used in a situation like this. Like, oh, it was just a misunderstanding. Like, we didn't know the full story. Like, yeah, but you still took action. That's why we're having this conversation right now. Not because you didn't do your due diligence. We're talking about what you did. And we've got the World. Bringing a situation to the end. To the end? Oh. It's like the end of a book. The end. The whole map is seen. Kind of reminded me of like the end of a video game. When you've cleared up, unfogged the whole map. Everything is seen. So what about the World? Nine of Cups and the Emperor in reverse. So wish fulfillment. Is this like defeating the Emperor? whomever is participating in the institutional harm that could be representative of the group that took it upon themselves to, like, raise the sword against the maiden, the muse. And maybe the wish fulfillment here is that this situation is coming to an end, you know, so the Lilith character can fly away so that transformation can be completed. So is that all this is? They're trying to, or were trying to scapegoat somebody because of what they did. Like punishing someone for daring to stand up to them. Something like that. And then they got a whole crew of cronies or whatever to go along with this that went along with it without having a full story, which is not an excuse. They still went along with it. And I don't know if something accidentally slipped out, like over drinking or something, or someone had intent on, like, man, I think something's up. Like, something isn't adding up. I'm getting conflicting accounts and all that. Like, let's see if we can truth serum someone a little bit, and then it spirals out of control. The group starts to Ouroboros itself. Feels a little incomplete, but still carrying on with the Uranus and Gemini theme. We've got the Capricorn full moon coming up in a couple of days, and Mars is about to go into Gemini, so maybe this is still in the background. Maybe that's what feels incomplete to me. And then that clash of Mars and Uranus and Gemini might take the lid off of some of this. As to, like, who is this false emperor? Like, what is going on with them? Especially if there was, like, an expectation of, like, a relationship. And maybe they're just cocky. Maybe they think they can just get anybody, and they're like, oh, watch this, and now they're embarrassed because that didn't work, and so they were trying to, like, get revenge on someone. Because that hungry ghost, maybe they just tried over and over and over and over to produce the outcome they were trying to secure and involved other people in it. And now everybody's getting in trouble. As they should, in my opinion. Because at a certain point, it's like, okay, you, dearest adult, need to take responsibility for your choices. Like, how did you get to this point of your life acting like this? Jump around. House of Pain. Maybe have a little dance party, you know, loosen up some of that energy, because it does feel kind of stuck. And I don't know, it's always nice to hear those songs that I probably for the longest time could not have named this song by name, but as soon as I hear it, you know, I recognize it. Yeah, any sort of something that gets you moving, move the energy through. Because maybe waiting for this to end, to come to the surface, whatever, is feeling really stifling, really suffocating. And that can be difficult to manage that anxiety around these. So jump around. Maybe it's a jump around cleaning party, something like that. Open up the windows, get some of the fresh air moving around. Anything to help pick up the vibe through what sounds like really a bummer of a situation. And we'll keep digging into it as this lunar cycle moves forward. So overall, I hope this helps. Still hoping these don't resonate, but if they do, I hope you found something helpful, and we'll see you next time.